Hello there, villagers. Today I am in the car. Charlotte's gone to a singing lesson and I am between drop-offs and pickups. So this probably won't be the weirdest place I'm going to read you a story. But here goes. Tonight we are reading Dogger's Christmas. Somebody gave Charlotte a copy of the original book of Dogger when she was tiny. And he's very sweet. So this is Dogger's Christmas by Shirley Hughes. Once there was a boy called Dave. He had a big sister called Bella and a little brother called Joe. Joe could not walk properly yet, but he could scrabble along on the floor, crawling very fast. Bella was especially good at running and jumping. She could turn cartwheels and stand on her head. Dave had a very special toy called Dogger, who was almost as old as he was. He still took it to bed with him every night. But now he was getting interested in all sorts of other toys, like his train set, his spaceship, and cars that you could wind up so they would whiz very, very fast around on their own. Christmas was coming soon. Dave and Bella helped Mum and Dad put up paper chains and decorate the tree. They knew all about it being the birthday of baby Jesus and that he didn't have a proper bed and only slept in a manger and was visited by angels and shepherds and wise men. Dave and Bella were very busy making lists of all the fancy stuff they were hoping to get as presents and posting them up the chimney to Father Christmas. Bella didn't want any more teddies because she had 7 already. She was asking for some new trainers and a t-shirt with the Olympic badge on it. And a really, really good skipping rope because the one she had was rather babyish. Dave wanted a lot more track for his train set and some building bricks and a book about wild animals and a chocolate reindeer. Mum helped him make the list. Mum took Dave and Bella Christmas shopping. Joe was too young for that, so he stayed at home with Dad. They didn't take Dogger either in case he might get lost. Does your shopping place look as big as this and busy? Dave left Dogger propped up on the windowsill waiting for them to come back. They were gone a very long time. On Christmas Eve, the tree was all alight in the front window. Dave and Bella had their Christmas stockings ready to hang up. Dave had meant to give Dogger a stocking too, but in the excitement he forgot. When at last they cuddled down to sleep, Dave found it very hard to get to sleep. He knew that Father Christmas would not come until he was asleep, but somehow he kept sitting up and checking the end of his bed to make sure his stocking was easy to see. But in the end, all the house was quiet. At last it was Christmas morning, and Dave and Bella and Joe woke up very early to find their stockings full of lovely presents. The floor around their bed was covered in torn wrapping paper. As soon as Mum and Dad were awake, Dave and Bella gave them their presents, which they had kept secretly hidden. Dave had some lovely sweet-smelling soap for Mum, which Dad had helped him choose, and a big bag of chocolate coins for Dad. Bella had a little diary for Dad, which he could take into his office, and a book about wildflowers for Mum. After breakfast, Mum and Bella went over to see Jim Baker, who lived on his own with his dog Ruffy. Mum had a box of chocolates for him, and Bella had made him a card. She also had a tin of dog food for Ruffy, who was her special friend. "My son Phil's coming over to see me and bringing the Christmas dinner," Jim said. "Bound to be late, but it will be great to see him when he does turn up. Meanwhile, Dave and Joe had stayed home with Dad, who was keeping an eye on the Christmas dinner. Dave started to build a super space station with his new building bricks. There's Dad, and there's the building going on. Then Granny and Grandpa arrived bringing presents, and Christmas had really begun. It was a lovely day. At bedtime that night, when Granny and Grandpa had left, the children were very tired and very happy. Joe was tucked up, and Dave was almost ready to fast asleep. Dave was already even fast asleep when Dad carried him upstairs to bed. Bella followed soon after. Later that evening, when Dad was cleaning up the wrapping paper and putting them into a big plastic bag, Mum was filling the dishwasher and they heard a wail. Dave had woken up and wanted Dogger. But where was he? You know, for an inanimate object, this dog gets everywhere. They looked everywhere, but he was nowhere to be found. Look, they've gone for a big hunt. Dave cried and cried. He'd felt so sad that Dogger, his dear old friend, had been forgotten and left out of all the Christmas fun. It took him a long time to go to sleep. The following days, Dave did not want to play with his new toys. Christmas was no good without Dogger. Mum reminded him that Dogger had been lost before and had turned up in the end. He was sure to be in the house somewhere. But Dave was not reassured. His misery spread through the whole family. No matter how hard they searched, Dogger seemed to have disappeared. Dave began to think he might be lost forever. Dad was doing a lot of clearing up. Dave and Bella stood in the doorway and watched sadly as he tied up all the rubbish bags and took them to the place where they kept the bins. I don't know what's going to happen. Do you? The refuse van was already making its way noisily up the street, and the bin men were emptying the brimming bins into the back of it so that the contents were all scrunched up inside. They were nearly at Dave and Bella's house when suddenly Bella had a very clever idea. She decided to have one last look for Dogger. Bella dashed over to the bin, emptied the rubbish all over the path and began searching through it. And guess what? Out of a big piece of screwed up wrapping paper, she caught sight of the tiny tip of a brown tail. "Dogger!" she shouted. "Dogger!" shouted Dave. Bella pulled him out and held him up high. He was very dirty. Dave was so pleased. He gave out a cry of joy, ran down to the front gate, took Dogger from her hands and hugged him tight. "We thought he was lost," Bella told the bin men. They all raised a cheer. Good old bin men. Then, of course, Dave and Bella helped Dad clear up every bit of rubbish which had been tipped out and back into the bin. "Phew, that was a near thing," Dad said later, when they were all sitting amongst the presents. Dave was tenderly wiping some dust from Dogger with a piece of tissue paper. He was too happy to speak. He had Dogger back, and that was all that mattered. Happy Christmas, Dogger. I think I shall be at home tomorrow. Reading in the car is slightly awkward because I've got to lean at a funny angle. Good night.